All right, we're going to try this. I'm going to try with the sharing settings to see if it will allow me to share stuff and we won't get copyright strikes. So we'll see what happens here.
Okay.
But can you see the screen? You can still see me, and then the rest
Yeah,
of
I
my
can see.
screen
Yep,
should
yep,
be
I can.
up
Yep,
on the right, right?
yep.
Or up. Okay, 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 okay.
Up on your left.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Cool. We'll see. We'll
Um,
see if it works. Hopefully this will, because if this works, this could be we could do this instead of OBS. But if we got to do OBS, we'll do OBS.
okay.
What's up with you? What's happening there?
Oh, not too much. Everything's good.
You
Uh,
outside currently doing your thing?
yep,
Cool.
yep. Although it's fucking cold.
Yeah, I do my cold training at night.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, I mean, I do it also like at this time because this is when you can get your vitamin D
Of
right
course,
now.
of course, of course.
So killing multiple birds with the stone kind of thing.
Well, we sent a lot of stuff, um, but I didn't get a chance to do the World War one.
Okay,
The
okay.
why the banks needed World War One to survive. What do you remember? I
The
was trying to speed read the transcript, but I didn't have enough time. What was the idea? Do you remember?
Yeah, the gist was that the banks, the major banks were, especially the European ones, were fucked. They were fucked and they were gonna be in big trouble and they needed an excuse or an emergency, right? Sound familiar?
Yeah, of course.
Um, so, and that to me is what the bigger picture is just using an emergency or slash creating an emergency, you know, where now the normal laws and ways of doing things would be paused so that um, special steps could be taken. And if anyone had a problem with that, you know, we could call you like kind of like that Nazi propaganda quote, like if anyone disagrees, you just call them a traitor, you know.
Sure.
Um, so if someone has a problem with these emergency steps, then you say they're unpatriotic or a traitor. But basically, the banks needed help. Um, and so basically, and it's interesting because it kind of reminds me of what's going on with Venezuela right now,
Mm.
where the banks or the money behind the corporate machine basically they need to grab a bunch of resources, you know, like steal everybody's wealth so that they can be like, okay, you know, now we can game on again. Um, so they needed World War One basically to create this emergency, whereas they could make major changes that would allow them from being in deep shit to all of a sudden like too big to fail. So everything and anything and everything had to be done to prop them up and save them. And the way things used to be done, you know, which is, you know, almost like an animal farm when it's like they make the laws and it's like no one shall kill another animal. And then when the pigs kill,
Unless, yeah, right. Then
unless
it
then in right
changes.
in
Yeah,
blood,
unless or if or
unless,
right.
yeah. So it's like that.
Great book, right? Jeez,
Oh, totally.
I can see why they make kids read it, but then I think that also kind of does a disservice because it becomes a book that we were made to read. So you're just like reading it to pass the stupid like sixth grade English test. And then you don't
Totally.
really actually think about how deep this shit is, at the time,
Right.
you know?
Right. And instead of understanding the real deeper meanings or parallels, you get a few of them. You get, you know, you hear about the Soviet Union a bit, you know, and the
Oh
bad
yeah,
things
the
that the
idea that we're in that system is it that's like, oh, let's just make sure this never happens, or this is
yeah,
what it's like for some other culture that like did this, or some other government or something. The idea that it's what is the movie where the guy says, "Are we the baddies?"
yeah,
When you
right,
realize that,
exactly,
oh crap,
exactly.
wait, is it? And they use that a lot in a lot of that's a trope in a lot of Japanese anime. I've realized a lot where you're introduced to some characters, who
Hmm.
are the heroes of the story, and you legitimately like them, and
Uh-huh.
they are interesting, and they're from their point of view. This is in uh, 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 Alchemist. What is it? Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. It's
Uh-huh.
in it's in a couple of other ones. I'm blanking on the names right now, but it's a common idea where, because I think a lot of cultures have had this happen to them, if the people are at least aware, where you there's these main characters, you really like them, you can tell they're doing the best they can from their point of view, and they're working for usually some kind of paramilitary organization, because their job is to like stop these invaders or stop these giants, or like stop this resistance group,
Hmm.
who's
Hmm.
obviously evil. And then
Hmm.
at what becomes apparent is that the heroes eventually start to realize, oh my gosh, wait a minute, these
Yeah.
giants or the resistance that we're trying to stop
Yeah.
are actually, like, we created
Yeah.
them. We're the bad
Yeah.
guys. They're
Yeah.
just trying to fight to
Exactly.
survive.
Yeah.
Oh crap, I'm working for the man,
Yeah.
and then that
Exactly.
realization is like, oh crap. And you as the viewer, it's such a great twist, because we're expecting the hero to be the hero, you know what I mean?
Right.
And they are, but then you realize their parent organization, the one employing them and giving them their marching orders, is totally evil.
Hmm. Hmm. Yes. Yes. And I would argue, to add to that point, the people that, while Trump is in my opinion, the total psyop and controlled opposition, uh, someone who they do everything in their power to be like, he's against the deep state, but no, he's just, I'd argue he's really there to draw out the members of, you know,
Well, there's like a few teams of deep states, right? You know what I
yes,
mean?
yes,
So it's
definitely,
like
definitely.
it's to draw out the members of a particular deep state team, like,
Yeah,
there's gonna be multiple groups, or how it used to be said, which was also too simplistic, is there's white hats and black
yeah,
hats. There's
exactly,
like the
exactly.
side that's the deep state that's working to like bring the apocalypse, and then
Hmm.
there's the deep state that's working to like bring free energy and gravity wave control to human beings, to advance us like scientifically, which again obviously is too simplistic, but it still at
Hmm.
least implied the idea that even within the deep state, there's going to be groups, there's going to be factions, there's going to be a private industry, paramilitary, actual government people. You're going to have all sorts of stuff going on in there, and then
Hmm.
bring in some, interdimensional beings or something, and then you got a stew going now, man.
Well, but I was actually more meaning that to draw out the base of his voters that would actually be resistant to,
Oh, who are diehard,
yeah,
no
well,
matter
I'm
what,
just saying, like I
ride or
remember,
die, ride or
say
die.
at the beginning of COVID, before like the lockdowns, I remember, like, when I was having those visions in that breakdown, I was realizing there are basically two segments of the society that are not pussified, that aren't, completely just enslaved. And that is, on the right wing, it's the patriot militia movement, freedom movement, whatever you want to call it. And then on the left, it was more like, I would call it like kind of like the black, uh, like a militant black, like, as represented by things in the past, like the Black Panthers or whatnot. The people who are like, no, 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 I'm not selling out. I'm not working for the man.
The text.
Um, and I feel that what they want to do, and what things like Obama and Trump are both psyops, like opposite sides of the same psyop coin. Whereas like they want to draw out those elements and be like, no, no, guys, join us. Like, we're going to do your cause. We're going to fight the good fight. We're going to stop, the boogeyman, the whatever, the people you're concerned with and threatened by. And there's enough room under the tent for you guys. Like, come out, because no one else has been able to successfully message to you guys. And I feel like that's largely what they're like someone like a Trump is doing. And it's interesting, and I would argue that, whatever, someone like myself or Jimmy Dore were like, and Bernie was part of this too. I'm not saying Bernie was like actively knew he was part of it, but again, he was used to kind of bring these elements. Someone like myself who was like, no, fuck that, I'm not going to vote for either of these scumbags. But it's like, wait, this guy's different. He might actually do some of those things you really say you want to be done. But then, in reality, they don't. In reality, they just, they do a few, like I think we talked about before, like Trump did.
Well, they want the game to keep going on,
Exactly.
And
exactly.
look, I like Bernie. Back when I was like, back when he was kind of more popular, he'd give me that weird feeling inside that I liked, where it's like, yes, maybe there's hope.
There's hope. Yeah.
Like, and I know I'm naive in that area, but it's like, there's a part of me there's a part of me that wishes that politics could be used to
right
the lives of the beings on this planet. You know what I mean?
right. Which makes sense. And I couldn't fault anyone for hoping for that.
That feeling feels so good inside.
It does. And I ever see that show, Slow Horses?
No.
It's really good. Whatever. It's like a show about like British intelligence. It's a good show. Gary Oldman's in it. But anyway, there's this line in it that I just saw where basically Gary Oldman, who is like the seasoned spy veteran, says to the young and aspiring do-gooder, intelligence guy, wannabe hero guy. He basically says, who, and Slow Horses is like, it's this place where all the rejects in the intelligence community get funneled to. And they're not allowed back in with the A team. And so he says to the younger guy, it's the hope that kills you. But even more so, it's knowing that the hope that kills you. And so presenting us with, like, we know that, like I say, like, losing all hope is freedom. But most of us aren't brave enough to go without hope.
No.
So we cling to this hope that we know is likely to just, like, be like Trump, be like Bernie, or be like Obama. That in the end, it's just, in substance, it's just not much different than the rest of them. In style, yeah, they're going to focus on how the style is. How Obama's black, and Trump says these bombastic things and talks about the military-industrial complex, and things like that. And, and Bernie would talk about, certain degree of corruption and the millionaires and the billionaires, but in reality, it doesn't matter. Bernie's just going to sell out in the end, and he's just going to like become Hillary Clinton, basically. But they don't want to look like Hillary Clinton and talk like her, because then they can't draw into the tent, those elements that are like, what? No, we want it to be different. They're like, no, we'll give you Bernie Sanders and AOC and and come on in, and like that guy that you sent me who did that really good analysis.
Yeah, I was gonna pull that guy up at least just give him
Props.
some props here. I thought it was so well done. I know I've got it here somewhere.
Well,
Yeah,
it's well
I just wanted people to be able to see what we're looking for.
it's well
Looking
done,
at.
but what I'm trying to, in a way, what I'm trying to say is, it's like, we, for those of us that might want to do something about things or change things, it's a very difficult needle to thread, because if you use overt violence, you're gonna be fucked.
Yeah.
And if you don't use the correct violence, then you're fucked.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, what do you do? So it's like, okay, how are the slaves going to overthrow the slave masters? And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, well, the first rule of, say, a slave master club, is, you can't overthrow the slave master. But like, how do we overthrow them if we can't overthrow them?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that's a good question. How do I get a job without experience? But how do I get an experience without a job? It's like, I know it's a conundrum. You just better have connections and know people. Otherwise, it's going to be really tough. Like, you better be able to find a way to properly use violence, a mix of violence and influence, of ideas and propaganda, you know, to, and it's really hard, because that's like the whole thing with like the January 6th nonsense, is like someone like my dad who's just like, we're trying to overthrow the government. And it's like, Dad, how are they going to overthrow the government with no guns?
Mm.
You ever think about that? And I'm like, Dad, I fell for it at first too, but you still can't see through it. And it's like, they didn't have guns. That this was something else. This was not an attempt at an overthrow.
It was like a really intense protest. It was certainly a
Yeah,
protest, and then it got pretty intense as far as protests go.
totally. It became, there's protest and then there was riot to it, right? And just like the George Floyd stuff, it's like, you have legitimate protest and then you have legitimate riots and looting. you know, um, and if you say one and not the other, then one side loves you and the other side hates you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So again, how do you get these different, it's almost like what Marjorie Taylor Greene is trying to do now, like now she's coming out and speaking out against the jizz, and so now all of a sudden all these people on the left are like, wait a second, this woman isn't as bad as we thought. I thought she was Lady Hitler. But no, actually, this woman has more integrity than Bernie Sanders.
Right. Confirmation bias, right? She's saying my opinion, so it must be right. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, she's just saying the sky is blue.
Right. Yeah.
And Bernie's like, hey, we don't know if the sky is blue or not. And
Uh-huh.
it's like, come on, Bernie. We know that the fucking sky is blue. And he's like, oh, we don't know that. Pfizer has not yet told me the sky is blue.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And only Pfizer can let us know whether the sky is blue or not. And it's like, dude, I thought you're against the millionaires and billionaires. It's like, I am, except for Pfizer, the military industrial complex.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, oh, okay, you're just like the fucking rest of them. Except you talk a good game. And then I think, in the reality is, there's a Bill Hicks reality where it's like, look, even if Bernie was a good guy or Trump was the good guy, like, please, they get taken into a room or something like that, where they're like shown, like, dude, we will destroy everything you love. We will take it all away from you.
And that's probably already happened, and
Mhm.
or the people in power, it's probably with actual real power, that's already happened. They're like, oh yeah, no problem. Like,
Yeah.
that's cool. Like,
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
I figured that.
Yeah.
I'm down.
Right. Right. Exactly. And
Like, I doubt it's as shocking. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I doubt
They're
it's
like,
as
oh,
shocking.
you're gonna like blackmail me? Yeah, that's what I did too to get to power. Yeah, cool. Yeah, welcome to the club.
Yeah, exactly. And blackmail, and but that's why, like, say, like, the Epstein stuff struck such a chord, because like the pedophilia stuff, it's so hard for most people to wrap their minds around, and it's so repugnant to almost everyone, to almost everyone. you know um or like say like this Cash Patel shit, that thing I sent you where they're suing
Yeah.
that guy
Sure.
on Twitter for
Sure.
5 million.
Yeah.
And it's like basically, or it sounds like it's basically because the guy is claiming that Cash Patel is like caught in a jizz honey trap,
Yeah, for sure.
and which seems pretty fucking obvious. But
Well, even
but
if
that,
it's not, it's still called free fucking speech.
yeah, exactly,
You can
exactly.
make up whatever the fuck you want, you
Uh
know?
huh. But they're gonna
If there's free speech.
if there's free speech. But that's clearly what they're trying to get rid of, or make it so that there's free speech with an asterisk next to it.
Yeah.
And that's part of what the whole COVID misinformation, disinformation, malinformation bullshit was, or the whole idea of claiming something is hate speech, is like, or saying something is terrorism, that once you use those buzzwords, it's like the World War I banking thing I was telling you about. Now there's this emergency where the normal laws and ways of doing things are suspended or thrown out the window, and we've replaced your coffee with Folgers crystals, and this Folgers crystals is going to keep you safe, like those who are willing to sacrifice liberty and rights for safety deserve neither, kind of thing. And so it's kind of like when I say to people, it's like, okay, so you're okay with censoring people who are questioning the safety and efficacy of the vaccine, and they're like, yes, I am fine with censoring those people. Okay, well, let's do the simple hypocrisy test. Are you okay with censoring the people who are promoting the safety and efficacy of the vaccines? And they're like, oh, what? No, that would be terrible. And it's like, okay, so you like it when it's suits your confirmation bias, but not the other way.
And they're like, yeah, and then we're all like, yes,
yeah,
that's exactly what I'm saying, Josh. Like, you're just figuring this out now, yes.
Right? Yeah, it's it's frustrating though, because it's like it doesn't have, or at least I naively hope or think that it doesn't have to be this way. Yeah, but maybe it does. I don't know. Maybe I'm naive to think it doesn't have to be this way. Like, that there can be a free, exchange of ideas, and you agree with what you agree with, and you disagree with what you disagree with. And something I was trying to bring up before was that the people that like go crazy and the Trump derangement syndrome, they think that Trump is trying to overthrow the government and become a dictator. It's like, dude, that dictatorship is already in place. You guys just don't realize it because you're allowed to go to Starbucks. You're allowed to go on Amazon and watch Netflix or whatever, and it's not like you're in some sort of gas chamber,
sure,
or
yes,
being marched on a train. And it's like, well, that's not how they're doing it. They're not just like, they might kill a bunch of people with bombs and bullets in some places, but for the most of us in the first world, they're not going to do it that way. They're going to poison you with the things like the vaccines and the chemtrails, or the food, poisoning the food, and putting like glyphosate in the soil and in everything that we have, and putting fluoride in the water and blue light in everyone's house, and making it so you're undermined and you get sickened, and you're living near these 5G, things, and these routers spitting out, and these cell phones spitting out like radiation and weird detrimental frequencies, and like that Florida study that came out and said more Americans were killed by the COVID vaccines than World War I and World War II combined. And I mean, that's a wild thing. Like, if that's true, you could kill as many people in that, but no one would care in one instance. But in the other one, they make it that they become very resistant to war. You know, the whole Smedley Butler thing, in part, was like those bankers and those, people looking to create a private paramilitary army that they were wanted, some of them at least wanted Smedley Butler to lead. They were like, hey, we have all these disaffected, homeless, World War I veterans who have nothing, and we can that's an opportunity waiting to be seized.
Yes.
And and a huge anti-war. Then he became a huge anti-war activist because he saw the game. But he had to leave the military to see the game. As long as he was in the military, he even admitted that he couldn't understand the game. It was only once he left the military that he could see through it. And it's really hard to get people to see, like that other quote, like it's impossible to get someone to understand something when their salary depends on them not understanding it. Which is like most doctors with the COVID vaccines, for example.
Yeah.
It's like they have too many incentives. They've just been too brainwashed. They've been miseducated. They don't understand that this thing is really hurting people, it's killing people. And I know so many people that have died in these past 3 to 4 years. Like it's crazy, It's crazy. But no one, or most people, don't care anything about it. That's how you do it. That's how you do it in a slick way, and you make it so that no one even knows that you're basically already a slave class. But you think you're not a slave class, but you get Netflix and Starbucks.
Absolutely. Delicious. It's kind of like, what more is there?
Right? They're kind of like, what the fuck more do you want from us?
Absolutely.
They're like, don't you get this whole fucking thing? The whole bigger picture is that there is no other way to do it, but at least you guys get Netflix and Starbucks.
Absolutely.
The rest of them just got rounded up onto trains,
right?
Or shot in firing lines, put in gulags,
or they're living in slums now, now. Most beings, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're top 1% and we don't realize it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do feel like someone like Trump. That's why this whole thing, like especially post, Epstein list and Charlie Kirk stuff, where you have so much of his movement that are like, dude, you fucking sold out. You're corrupted. You're part of it. And you have people like Megyn Kelly going like, I believe that this Lee Harvey Oswald killed Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
So, and like Tucker Carlson and Dave Smith are like, you guys are fucking retarded, or you're all corrupted, or and.
Well, yeah, and they've already kind of proven that. They're like, there is. I've got the list. I'm gonna release it. There is no list. Actually, we made it sealed for the next 50 years because we can't release that list. So that kind of makes sense of all of our actions so far. And it's like, oh yeah, I guess it does. They're like, yeah, the files, by the way, are way, way worse than any of you are even close to imagining. It is at this point a national security interest, and these things are never ever fucking going out,
Yeah.
Holy crap.
I know. Or like you see when like
the sex thing is probably like the least of the most insane parts of it. You know what I'm saying? Like the sex part, like that's why I think that's being jumped on, right?
Yes.
It's like, like this, just focus on this. Like, it's what's the terrible thing is these people were doing all these sex crimes, and it's like, just focus on that only. And look, that's terrible. And I don't mean to imply that's not terrible. It is terrible.
I know,
but there's also other terrible stuff.
Yep. Totally. No, the sex stuff was just to entrap those individuals.
Yeah, that's like that's base. That's the base level. That's step one. Like when you're making a cake, it's like you get some flour. and then you add like some, and then
Right?
just some, it's like that's just the flour,
Yes, yes.
that was just to get the cake started, and they made a lot of cakes,
They made a lot of cakes. In fact, the whole world, or much of the world, is one giant bakery.
Yeah, right. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And you need a few. You need a few ingredients. You don't need all the ingredients, and you can't do it with just one.
Yeah. And it's like, but Ellen couldn't be a baker. It's like, yes, Ellen is a baker. It's like Diddy couldn't be a baker. Yes, Diddy is a baker. Trump couldn't be a baker. Yes, Trump is a baker. It's
Or
like
Rihanna,
Obama.
or Oprah,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
anybody who, or their intelligence assets. In which case, it
yeah.
might be like a little bit of both. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
Because if these are intelligence operations, and why wouldn't they be? Because
Mhm.
the honeypot works. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, totally.
Discovered thousands, perhaps millions of years ago. This
Hmm.
whole honeypot shit fucking works.
Yeah,
Damn. And it's not just like a little bit of the time, because I think even the people taking part in it are like, oh, yeah, this is a honeypot. Let me in. Like, I want success. I want to be famous. I want power. Or whatever. It's like, yeah, I got
exactly,
to participate. Of
exactly.
course. Like, no
Yes.
problem. Like, yeah.
Hmm. And that's where, like, Epstein had like power of attorney for Les Wexner, who
Mm-hmm.
was, the
Oh, yeah.
Victoria's Secret guy. So, right. So part of the thing was they get these young, hot, you know, tween girls, like some girl who was like 15 or 16 or whatever, and be like, dude, we'll get you in Victoria's Secret.
Yeah. Like, no
You know?
problem.
Yeah, dude, like we have all these
Just like
different,
literally let some millionaire, billionaire guys like have sex with you or something. It'll probably last
yeah,
like 10 minutes.
yeah,
And then you'll be successful. It's like, okay,
yeah,
cool. Like, yeah, they're like, yeah, I knew that coming here. They're
right?
not retarded.
Yeah. Like if Mr. Difficult, if it was like, hey, Josh and John have sex with this 60-year-old billionaire woman, and then you guys will be headlining Madison Square Garden and places like that. I'd have been like, okay.
Yeah, we're gonna have to, like, how long do we have to decide?
Yeah.
I'm gonna shit, like, can I, do you have some what is it, Viagra?
Yeah, just give me some Viagra. Yeah,
Like,
that's fine.
do we
Viagra's
have some
fine.
ecstasy
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Viagra? You got some
yeah,
Tucci?
right,
You got
right.
enough Tucci for me?
Yeah,
You
right.
got enough Tucci for me? Sign me up.
Sign me up. So it's like, and most of the people that are going for these positions, like they want the power, whereas I like that ancient saying that only he who has no use for the empire is fit to run it, you
Yes.
know? And and someone like Trump tries to or Obama tried to present themselves as that, you know. And I think that's part of why they gave Obama the Nobel Peace Prize right away for doing nothing. And and then Netanyahu is promising Trump the Nobel Prize, and Epstein and Bill Gates was claiming, right, that he was like hanging out with Epstein because he wanted to get a Nobel Prize. It's like this thing where it's like it has this, hey, I got a Nobel Prize, therefore I've contributed to humanity in a way that outweighs any negative I've
Yeah.
done,
Yeah.
because behind every great fortune is a great crime.
Yeah.
So all of these people have great crimes to cover up and hide, with their philanthropy. For every, concentration camp they build, they want to build a new hospital,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that's the game, is for
Mm-hmm.
everything that you do, you need to create some, philanthropath kind of thing where it will be a PR, wet dream for you, and you will use it to rewrite the history of your name and your family, so that everyone will remember those things and forget the terrible things you've done. And in fact, we'll come up with a term like conspiracy theory, for anyone who thinks that the concentration camp you built was, ever built in the first place, you know? Because it's really like the whole corporate media is really just a protection racket. It's just like if you buy enough advertising revenue, It's like nothing bad will be written about you that you won't be given full notice of in
Sure,
advance,
sure.
and then allowed to combat and you know, get the lead in the article, you know. And but if you don't have, you know, millions or billions of dollars lying around to just throw away at that type of shit, then like you can't play that game, you know.
Yes.
And that's why it's like it's really hard and excludes people who, and that's part of the thing that I see. Like I see the vulnerability of the system in a way from the powers that be, that like I could see just could only take a few billionaires to start, like, I don't know, doing some things and getting organized and really undermining the power of the system. And I think that's why um inherently, I think it's kind of baked into the cake that there's just common interests. And I actually think that's the real thing at the top. Those who can, you know, leadership will be by the oligarchs that convince their competitors that their vision is the right vision and their approach is the right approach, at least for a certain time, you know. And those banks, we're talking about the world, bring it back to the World War I and the banks. It seems like, you know, the banks were trying to convince the other banks, like, guys, we need to get all on the same page. And because, like, leading up to the Federal Reserve, 1907, that crash, and that panic was, you know, the infamous story is of J.P. Morgan and Teddy Roosevelt, Teddy Roosevelt, J.P. Morgan, you get all the bankers together and you get in a room and you work this out. And then J.P. Morgan gets all the other bankers and says, guys, this is our game. And either we work together, and bail out the system. Otherwise, we stand to lose everything we have, And that's why, for example, with World War One, J.P. Morgan lent so much money to the Allies that if the Allies lost, he wasn't getting paid back.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole thing. You've got to get everyone onto your side in that way. Not just like, pretty please, will you join my side? It's like, no, if you don't join my side, we're going to lose everything too.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it seems like war is kind of like, all right, we're so fucked that we need to, like with Venezuela, like if we take all your oil and gold and resources, then hey, we can start the game up again, and we can just play. And then all that loot that we took from you guys, we can use that loot to fund the next giant war party, and if anyone's against us, we will destroy them. And then they will pay like war is this giant party where the loser pays the bill,
Right.
And it seemed like that's what World War One, World War Two were, and Germany was rising up. Germany and Russia were starting to, do trade together. It's like there are these interesting things that before World War One, World War Two, and I think leading up to Ukraine invasion, Germany and Russia were starting to do trade together, cooperate. And the powers that be just don't fucking want that, like, because that would create a competing axis that might actually give them real trouble. How to create something that they're going to be a part of. And if they go against it, they'll be fucked.
And it's interesting that they always fold in some type of, whether it's real or not, a paranormal mythology into it. Whether it's religious based or alien based, or something like that. And it's kind of like, it doesn't matter if I think it's true, if they think it's true, right?
Yes.
So if you're religious enough that you think there is a battle between angels and demons,
right,
then like, that's not only is that probably the most important piece of information.
Uh-huh.
I
Right.
want to be on the right side of that.
Mm-hmm.
Or if it's between some different interdimensional beings,
Mm-hmm.
then that's really important.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I need to be on the right side of that. And I think it's also at a point too where, let's say you're really discerning and you're like, look, I don't know. I haven't met these interdimensional beings. I haven't met an angel or a demon.
Mm-hmm.
But God damn it, if that's going on, I need to take that into consideration, right? If I'm trying to control some shit or I'm trying to be impactful, if I'm dealing with a group of people that believe in that, then I need to work around that. That might even be to my advantage. Perhaps there aren't angels and demons, but this paramilitary group is sure that there are demons. I need to work around that. I need to know that. I need to know what they believe. I need to know that, and I need to use that paranormal or religious or spiritual, because it's like the ultimate lever. It's like what I guess I'm finally going to want to say. It's even more important than money, or for some people, or you can make the argument that that's even more important than money. This whole God thing or alien thing or interdimensional, whatever. It's like shit. Like, okay, money's important, but I'm going to use my money to figure that out. You know, like in Three Body Problem, there's this big cult and run by a billionaire. And the reason they're so big and successful and what's going on with them is he has a set up communication with these alien beings, with the Trisolarans. And so that is the power. That is the thing that's the most important. That is what they're keeping secret. That's what he's using all of his money on and to maintain. You know what I'm saying? That is the more important thing. If it's real, or even if it's not, if you're dealing with a system or a group of people that believe in that, if that's their actual beliefs, like with Zionists, right? The idea is they're trying to bring about the apocalypse. They want that to happen. That you can rebuild the temple, get the Antichrist, and then get the real Messiah. Right? It's like you want that to happen. So if those people believe in that, and that's what they're trying to make happen, that's important to understand. Whether or not that's actually true or is going to happen, that's their plan. They do believe in it, you know? Or I was saying,
or at least have to make it appear like they believe in it.
Well, sure, but some of them do. There's going to be a huge variety, right? There's going to be some of them who do, some of them who don't, but are going to play along. Some of them who don't and are trying to change the whole format, right? It's going to be a huge variety. It's going to be a huge variety. But if you're trying to manipulate Zionists, you're going to need to take those beliefs into consideration. That is going to be your biggest leverage. And then probably money right below that.
Well, money is just the incentive structure.
Sure.
Right?
But you can do a lot with just money. But even more is go after somebody's belief system. Figure out because that's all our behavior comes from our beliefs. So if you can figure out someone's belief system, you can predict with probably unerring accuracy what someone is going to do in almost every situation they're going to be in, let alone that humans are beings of habit and we're basically going to do the same thing that I did yesterday. I'm basically going to do the same thing today. I'm going to live in Ann Arbor. I'm going to go online. I'm going to eat some food. I'm going to go to sleep. It's like, I'm going to do that almost every day. You can predict so much about human behavior just out of habit. And the habits also arise out of the belief. So yeah, if you can understand people's beliefs, you can use that to manipulate them. I think it's like we're talking about this in so many different ways, whether it's a honeypot or money or paranormal or spiritual interests, whatever the person, their belief system is, you figure that out and then you twist on that.
Exactly.
And then you get them dancing because they wanted to dance anyway. And it's like, what kind of dance? And like, I'm into tango. It's like, okay, here's some tango music. It's like, oh, damn, look at them dancing. Like, holy shit, that was easy. I was playing Radiohead, they didn't dance. I put on tango music and they dance. Like, wow, okay, that's interesting. Because their belief system, Radiohead, whatever. But tango is where it's fucking at.
Or like when the Dave Chappelle had John Mayer, and they go to like the barber shop, the black barber shop,
Mhm.
and John Mayer's like doing guitar solos and stuff, and they're like, "Shut the fuck up!" And then they have some guy come in and just play some drums and do a beat, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Yeah, dance right." You know? It's like Chappelle's like, "You see,
That's how you do it.
that's how you do it," you know. But he brings John Mayer to like the white coffee shop, and he's
Yeah.
playing guitar, and everyone's like, "Yeah, this is some good stuff." So right, so it's like knowing what turns these people on and
Yeah.
turns those people off,
Yeah.
and you go accordingly. Because I
In
remember,
America, it's Netflix and Starbucks, bro.
yeah, exactly, and they're like,
Cool.
"Shit, that's all it took. We didn't
That's yeah,
realize."
that's my favorite song right there. Play that song
Right,
every day. Where's
right.
my Bud Light and my Netflix and Starbucks, bro? I'm set.
I know,
You throw some Zins in there, bro. You got my attention.
right? And that's and I remember like I sent like there's this good book that I really like, and it was called The China Mirage, and it was is written by the guy who wrote the book that Flags of Our Fathers
Mhm.
was based on,
Sure.
and um, it's really good book, and in he talks about some of the fuckery that led up to Pearl Harbor,
Mm.
and basically how it was like a big setup to
Sure.
allow Pearl Harbor to
Sure.
happen,
Sure.
which of course like someone like people like ourselves are like open to or receptive
Sure.
to, but someone like my dad, it was like, no, this is we're the white hats and they're the black
Right.
hats,
Right.
and
Right. Forever.
yeah, forever, and
Yes.
I sent him some like section of the book that details some of the fuckery, and part of the fuckery was, or one of the main actors in some of the fuckery in America was this guy Dean Acheson,
Okay.
and he's a guy that back then he was like a big player in a lot of all this shit, and basically uh it just outlines some of the fuckery that of like, look, we knew this. There were people that knew this was not, that set it up and did everything they could to make that shit happen.
Hmm.
And I sent it to my dad, and he was basically like, all right, well, do you think that Dean Acheson, was he like a true believer? Like, did and I thought this is a question that kind of gets to some of the core. Is like, how many of these people believe the bullshit, versus the people that are like, no, no, we got to put out this bullshit to justify what we want to happen. Like, we want Japan to attack us,
Yeah.
like Israel, like they go and they, assassinate Iran scientists and attack them at an embassy, which is a, giant no-no. Do all these things that if that was done to Israel, that were America, it would be like all out war. Like the people that like, oh, Russia invaded Ukraine unprovoked. It's like, you fucking idiots. You ever hear like the Cuban Missile Crisis? Like, you think we were just going to sit back and let that shit happen?
Hmm.
Like if China just like, turned Canada or Mexico or Cuba, against us, and started putting in big time weapons and bio labs and whatever, they're like, you think we would just sit around with our thumbs up our asses and be like, that's all good. It's like, no, this is how you provoke. This is how you fuck with them until they finally, and they say, hey, please stop fucking with us. And it's like, no. It's like,
Well, you put a
again,
$20 bill on a fishing line and then you put it on the sidewalk.
yeah.
It's not, I can tell you what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you what's going to happen. Does that mean I'm magic? Like, no,
Yeah,
I can tell you
exactly.
that some humans are going to stop and try and grab that motherfucker. I'm going to yank it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's like, why is that person on the sidewalk crawling on the ground? They must be crazy. It's like, no, it's because someone put a fucking $20
Right,
bill
right.
on a fishing line, and now that fool is crawling on their hands and knees trying to get it, but it keeps on being snatched away. It's like, or that card trick.
So it's like, here's an undefended port, or
Hmm.
very like barely defended at all. Like it must be a mistake, it must be a mistake.
Yeah. Like if Venezuela was putting warships off the coast of New York or California, like we'd be like, no problem, Venezuela, you got it. But like Venezuela can't just defend itself and attack those ships. So if it attacks those ships, then they're going to be in real trouble. Then we're going to take it to the next level. So, and honestly, when Smedley Butler was invading the Marine, and they were invading whatever, Nicaragua and all these other types of places, we'd send our troops there, and we'd say to one side, the side that we wanted to overthrow, we'd say, you guys can't fight back. They can fire on you, but you can't fire on them, because if you fire back on them, you might hit us. And if you hit us, we're getting involved.
Mm-hmm.
And then so they're like, but what do you mean? We can't defend ourselves? And they're like, we're not saying you can't defend yourselves. We're just saying you can't shoot back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know? Um, yeah, and then, but eventually they're going to have to be like, all right, like there's only so much we can take this shit. So we're going to have to defend ourselves. And it's like the second you try to defend yourselves, then we're coming in. And
Yep.
that's a trap.
Yep.
But for most people, like most Zionists, they think the story starts with October 7th.
Oh yeah, and then that was one of the this one, yeah. Yeah, this was, I couldn't believe this.
Right. Wasn't that wild?
Yeah, how is that lady alive?
I, I know.
My goodness.
I know.
Either not for long, or you kind of get a little bit of a little bit of like that, like all publicity is good publicity.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they did this terrible thing. It's like, no, we didn't. But wouldn't it be cool if we did? Like wouldn't that make us kind of like somebody you don't want to fuck with?
Right.
Like we didn't do that, but
if we did, wouldn't that be pretty badass?
Yeah, wouldn't that be? You probably don't want to fuck with us. So
right?
It's like either way, you're kind of screwed there. It's like any publicity is good publicity a little bit. It's like, oh damn, like you'll let your own people die. Wow, like don't fuck with those guys. It's like,
don't fuck with them.
We get it. We get it.
But that's also part of the ruse or the magic trick that they do is they're like, not everyone, but a lot of, especially the Democrats and people like Bernie Sanders, are playing the game of like, this is Netanyahu's fault. This is all on Netanyahu, And so this whole thing of like, Netanyahu, you funded Hamas, or you allowed October 7th to happen, or you're this far right wing government that's, killing babies and starving them. It's Netanyahu's fault, or you say it's Obama's fault or Trump's fault. That's why it's like democracy in reality ends up becoming this part of the protection racket. Like it's a buffer zone for the real power, because real power is like, we didn't do this shit. This was Obama. This was Trump. This was Netanyahu, and so the machine just keeps on rolling on,
Oh yeah, we want one person to blame. We
exactly.
want one group to blame. We want the mythology to be simple. And with something like, to do a really crazy segue or something, if that is what DMT did for me, is it made me realize the universe is so much more wildly complex, wildly creative, complex than I could have ever possibly imagined. And realizing that, because I didn't want to imagine that. I wanted it to be easy. Like there's like God and the devil, and that's it. And I just need to fight on like the good side or something, right? We want it to be easy. Why is it raining? Because God is crying. We want an easy story that's simple. We don't want it to be complex. God help us, please. No, you know? We want one guy or one group that's bad. The end, you know, we can get behind that. That's easy. It's like, yes, that makes it's not that it makes, well, I guess in some ways it does make sense if you want it to be a simplistic story, right? If that's actually what you're wanting, then it's just like, just show me who the bad guy is, you know. Oh, okay, go found him. It's Netanyahu, or it's this guy or that guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's,
but then those guys die eventually,
yeah,
and the same shit keeps going. So I guess it actually wasn't them, right? You know,
right?
I guess there was something else going on, or it was more complex. It wasn't just some guy.
And it's something that, as long as it's something that's difficult enough to prove, there's enough plausible deniability, then the machine will just roll on without needing to change.
No, because you can even have this. You can have somebody calling the bad guy out, and it does nothing. So wait a minute. Oh, so this is like a feature, not a bug.
Yeah.
If you've created the system where you can be identified as being the bad guy, people call you out on it, but then nothing really happens or changes, then it's fine. Then it's kind of like, or as Foucault would say, it's like you can let people argue and say whatever they want. You can let them whatever say, be revolutionary in their thinking and in their talking, as long as you control their bodies. It does not matter what they think or what they say. That's great. You can encourage free speech. Hey, sure, argue all you want, as long as I get to control where you are, where your body is, that being able to control the body as the ultimate power. That it doesn't matter if you let people talk and argue and say the truth or bring truth to power or whatever. It doesn't matter. You're still going to pay taxes, and you ain't going anywhere without a passport, a bunch of money, and our approval. You know what I mean? You're not going anywhere. And I think that's probably the bigger issue with leaving the planet. If there is lots of life in the universe, there's going to be some kind of, if there is some kind of federation of planets or something like that, then you can blow up your own planet, but you're not allowed to blow up somebody else's planet.
Yeah.
So you're not allowed to leave. You must be quarantined. We're going to keep you here until X, Y, or Z, or until you enter the treaty and say that you're not going to go blow up other planets. You can blow up yours, and no one else is allowed to blow up yours, but you can't go blow up theirs either. That where you are, where your body is, what you're able to impact, that's what we're going to. It makes sense why you would want to control that. It makes sense why you'd want to control that.
Absolutely. It's just like if you're going to have a party and you're going to invite all your friends, but you got this one friend that, not every time, but maybe every other time, that friend gets way too wasted, starts yelling the N-word or whatever,
and then pukes all over your furniture.
You're like, all right, you know what? Everyone's coming, but no one invite Fred.
Right.
Because if we invite Fred, he might pull that shit again. So we want to have the party, but Fred might fuck it up. So no inviting Fred. You know, it's kind of like that, you know, or like the way you make people pass a written test and then a driving test before they can get on the road.
Absolutely right.
You know, and so this is like a driver's test for the
right.
Earth.
We can take that away anytime, right? That's part of the agreement. Is once you have it, you don't just get to keep it unless that's okay with us. We're going to control where you can go. You're traveling, what you can do with your body and what you can't.
In the same way that we have, like, make nuclear reactors to create energy, it would make sense that on Earth is some form of nuclear reactor in that sense, where, you know, they've seeded life here. It creates all this more life, you know, and you just give it, like, kind of like that Alan Watts thing where he says, like, if aliens came and, you know, and they said, oh, this place, you know, like an apple tree, like it apples, You know, this place
Yes.
at Peoples,
Yes.
you know, and then they go away for a while and then they come back and they're like, oh my God, look how this planet has peopled, you know, whereas in other areas they tried, but it's not really peopling,
Hmm.
you know, and they've set up shops all around the universe like that, you know,
Of course.
and you know, and that would make a lot of sense, you know,
Yep.
and you know, and that basically everyone has to pass these different tests, you know, these drivers tests to
Yes.
go on the highway of the intergalactic highway, as
Absolutely.
opposed to stay in their little cul-de-sac on Earth or whatever planet
Right.
they're situated on.
Right.
Um,
It's like, no,
and
you can like drive your tricycle around your cul-de-sac. That's it. You're
yeah,
not
that's it.
you don't go on the main roads. You can't leave the neighborhood
Hmm.
until you're older, until
Yeah,
you know what the fuck's going on.
right. And you've proven yourself trustworthy to be behind a wheel and
Right.
not be like Fred at the party and fuck it up for everybody.
Right, exactly. Because
You
it's
know,
real easy to kill yourself or other people. It's real easy.
it's really easy.
Real easy. Even when people are trying to avoid doing that, it still happens. That's
Hmm.
how easy it is.
Hmm. And we're not just going to give all these people the answers so that they can tell us what we want to hear and deceive us. We're going to be like, no, no, you guys have to figure the shit out on your own and then
Absolutely
come to
right.
us and prove to us
Well, because
that
that would be disastrous, right? To go ahead and just be like, look, my kid is a good kid and he's in kindergarten. Here's the keys to the car. That's
yeah,
just stupid.
yeah,
Like you
exactly.
may trust your kid and you may be
Hmm.
right that they're
Hmm.
very trustworthy and whatever.
Hmm.
It's still a terrible idea. They can't even reach the pedals.
Hmm.
They can't reach the pedals and see over the top at the same time. It's just like a physical impossibility. Like, don't do that.
Hmm. No, exactly, exactly. You know, and it's hard to try to have these conversations with people because they're like, look, it's a waste of time to discuss anything speculative. I want to talk about hard facts. You
Ugh.
know, that's the only thing that's worth talking about. It's like, but wait, some of the things you're calling facts aren't really facts. They're just like lies agreed upon, you know?
Yes,
Or
or their
like,
theories. Really, what we're
yeah.
talking about, even within science, is that theories and that
Mm-hmm.
they've been proven, but they're still going to be revised over time. You don't ever
Mm-hmm.
actually get to like, oh, it's just done. We did science and it's over. No, you keep revising it over and over and over again as you get more and more data.
Mm-hmm.
We know kind of like this idea is kind of correct, but we're going to keep finding out more over time and we're going to revise the hypothesis. We're going to revise what we know over time. It's never actually done. The fact
Mm-hmm.
isn't actually done, right? You can go back in time and find facts that then get revised, and we go, oh shit, it actually wasn't that the whole time either.
Mm-hmm.
They're revising the Big Bang. That's a huge deal the past year or so. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh no. It's like a toroidal, always being destroyed, always being created system. It's not that it was tiny and then now is big. Most scientists now are not on team Big Bang, but you go back 10 years and that was like the shit. It was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, the Big Bang. It was tiny and then exploded. And now like, wait, now it seems it's more like a black hole, white hole. The universe is kind of stuck
Hmm.
between these black hole, white hole, toroidal system. That
Hmm.
seems to more match the data. It's like,
Huh.
oh, okay, cool. But 10 years ago, if you're like, I have doubts about this Big Bang, they're like, oh, you're just stupid. You're
Yeah.
denying facts. It's like,
Right?
no, we are understanding improved. We've learned more. That's what's so cool about science. God damn it. Science
Mm-hmm.
itself would be like, no, it's not over. This is just our best theory, our best guess, our best hypothesis that we've got
Mm-hmm.
as of now. And we're going
Mm-hmm.
to keep learning. We're going to keep changing it and evolving it. Stop talking about it like it's like over and done with.
Yes. Yes.
Holy shit.
Exactly. Exactly.
So it's not even understanding science correctly. Because again, we just want it to be simple. How was the universe
Mm-hmm.
created? Big Bang. Okay, at the end. Like what's on Netflix? We want it simple.
Mm-hmm.
We want there desperately to be facts that we can hang on to, that we can cling on to,
Mm-hmm.
because that'd be nice, that there's like truth and reality and it exists and I exist and the universe exists. That's a nice feeling. That's a nice idea.
Well,
I can
because
see why we'd want that.
it's the desire for certainty,
Absolutely.
you know, and but and that's the thing. And the desire for certainty you could call materialism or an aspect of materialism,
Absolutely.
and that everything is, like again, like Alan Watts says, the prickles and the goose,
Absolutely.
like, no, the prickles are like everything sharp edges and here's
Yes.
facts and it's provable, and they look at the goos and they say, ha, you're all gooey
I
and
know, right.
vague and nondescript, but really it's not prickles versus goos. Like there's prickly goos and gooey prickles, and
It just depends what level of magnification. It goes
yeah,
from prickles and then to goo and then to prickles again
yes,
and then to goo. It keeps flipping as you zoom in.
exactly, exactly. And so those of us who are willing to play around with the uncertainty, like we get called names because they, oh, you're open to the idea of that, but that says, but no, you're anti Big Bang, and it's like just give it enough time, and then the false certainty crowd will start saying it's not the Big Bang, and but you'll never give us credit for questioning the Big Bang because you'll say we are questioning it for the wrong reasons or something, or we got this wrong or that wrong, and so no, the point isn't to get everything correct or to be like a clairvoyant crystal ball seeing the future with certainty. It's playing around with the uncertainty. It's not saying that everything has to be perfectly clean and melodic or harmonic. It can be dissonant. It could have these weird things that make you question. It's not just something that's pleasing to the ear. It could be something else. It could be something that makes you reevaluate or question, like like stuff like punk rock and shit like that, and stuff like outside sound music, that is like, no, or like whatever, like Dillinger, Escape Plan,
Yeah.
that it's like, wait a second, it doesn't have to just be all harmony and melody. It can be just weird shit that's like attempting other forms. And it's like most people might think that's noise or nonsense or not music, but then give it enough time and then it'll just be like, like whatever. There's like, I think like whatever, like Metallica or something. And when I was a kid, it was like Metallica would never be played on radio. Now it's like Metallica is like classic rock. You know, and it's
Oh
like,
yeah. It's like yawn.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And at one point it was like, this isn't music. This is just noise and madness and kill your mother, kill your father music. And now it's just like give it enough time, and it's like, yeah, that shit's just like classic rock now, like played on the same station as the Beatles or the Who, and
I've got
that's
to I've got to
yeah.
get going, but
Okay.
I just wanted to present this thing because I think it's probably the one of the coolest, if not the coolest, GameStop discovery or post that was just posted today. This obviously a very brilliant guy did a
Mm-hmm.
three-part post.
Okay.
Basically, what he discovered and back engineered
Uh-huh.
um, is that algorithms on stocks, and specifically, of course, he's looking at GameStop, that they are communicating in these codes that are sent around 8 a.m. Basically every day,
Uh-huh.
and that these are codes that the algorithms are using to communicate with each other about what they're going to do with the stock price over a variety of different times. And this guy has broken
The code.
the code.
Huh.
And it is so unbelievably interesting. And in a way, I was going to bring it up way earlier that what he's talking about,
Mm-hmm.
what he's realizing is that the movements of the stocks are predetermined or kind of actively predetermined and danced with
Mm-hmm.
the algorithms. And that what he was realizing is that if that is true, which obviously he's positing that it is, if that
Mm-hmm.
is true, that means the price action is predetermined. So really what happens in the stock market is stocks move,
Mm-hmm.
and stock goes up, and then the market reacts to that and says, oh, the stock went up because, and then they find something. They
Uh-huh.
find something, or the
Uh-huh.
stock went down. Oh, it's because of this. That the
Uh-huh.
stock market, that the news is actually responding to the algorithms deciding what to do. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
before, right, we're taught the other way around, that a company does something good and then its stock goes up. No, the
Mm-hmm.
stock goes up because of the algorithms, and then the news that's bought and paid for, as we've been talking
Mm-hmm.
about,
Uh-huh.
goes, oh shit, the stock is going up. I wonder why. It's because of this.
Yeah.
And they come up with something to create the news story, or it goes down. Oh, it's
Mm-hmm.
because of this.
Mm-hmm.
But that it's not from the news. The price action is predetermined, and this guy has figured out how that is being communicated mathematically in the bar chart, in the chart pattern. Do you see what I'm saying? Like
Yeah, yeah.
in I'm going back up to it. In this, on like the 1 minute,
Mm-hmm.
these signals, while they are price action, they're also hidden instructions and codes for the algorithms.
Huh. So
So
does
it's
that
just,
mean, so is that implying like the algorithms are communicating,
yes,
and that are now I'm just asking questions right now.
yes.
Are are they communicating themselves, or is it that there's programmers programming them to communicate? It's like a chicken or the egg kind of.
Yeah, what is posited, that isn't what is posited, is that this algorithmic control, it's not just one algorithm. Like probably the most famous one is called Aladdin, the Aladdin system.
Oh, that's
But
the
there's
one from BlackRock, right?
right, but there's many other ones.
Uh-huh.
And that what's posited is that because the algorithmic methods have worked so well,
Uh-huh.
that it has now created, it's like the algorithms have taken over a long time ago.
Yeah, yeah.
The programmers did program it,
Uh-huh.
but then they unleashed it, and now there's 10 big ass supercomputer algorithms
Uh-huh.
that have been and are controlling the market. You're
Uh-huh.
not going to be able to go in and like if you're making a bunch of money, you're not going to mess with it anyway. But
Uh-huh.
the idea is that it's like running everything already.
Or let me ask, so it's almost like they're creating the waves of the ocean, in the sense that if you want to go out and surf or body surf, it's like you can't, when the waves come, they're just coming and there's nothing you can do about it. So you can either
Yes.
choose to surf the wave or go under the wave,
But
right?
you're like, oh, the algorithm just sent a signal,
A
a
signal.
big ass wave. It's
Yeah,
coming in
coming.
15
Uh-huh.
minutes or in
Yes.
7 days.
Yes.
And so it's like, I'm going to use that to my advantage.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
know the signal that the big dog, because they're the algorithms are the big dogs, right? It's like
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
they're doing what humans can't. And
Yeah.
so, yes, we read the tea leaves, we read the waves incoming, and we have a warning of what's going to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we have some binoculars, we can look further out into the horizon
Yeah.
than regular people can. They're just using their eyes, but we have binoculars. And so we can see, look, there's a big ass one coming,
Mm-hmm.
like, let's
Mm-hmm.
get ready. It's going to be here in
Mm-hmm.
4 days, exactly. That they've taken over. It's and that it's worked so well. There's no reason for them to stop. There's no
Mm-hmm.
reason for them to stop.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's working great for them. But if we can crack the code, well, one, it's totally illegal.
Uh-huh.
But two, if we can crack the code, we can prove what's going on, prove what's being illegal, and some shit maybe will change, but probably not, right? It's
And
like
make a
kind
sure.
of what we're talking about before.
Yeah.
And that once it's well known, like part of what this guy is talking about is that he wanted to understand it to a really far degree before he published anything, because he knew that once he published stuff, they're just gonna change it, or they're gonna
Yeah, they can
obfuscate it
switch
even
it up.
more.
Yeah.
So it's like trying to create kind of like a evidentiary trail or something, like have
Right,
enough
right.
proof and back test it and kind of check it out before you say anything, because you know they're just gonna flip it around.
Right, because so if you only put it out there to say someone like yourself,
Yeah,
as opposed to Joe Normie,
right.
who doesn't know anything or won't believe anything unless whatever the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal publishes it. But there are people like you and I who are like, whatever, have sources that are outside of the mainstream. So we can sometimes come upon things and data that.
Well, it's weaponized autism. That's what the GameStop community calls it. Is that this is essentially the greatest crowd what is it, not networking, crowdsourcing of all time. And that what you get is, you get 10,000 people, 5,000 of them are morons, 1,000 of them are really smart, and you end up with like 50 brilliant, genius, autistic. They're gonna read every filing. They're gonna
like the telepathy tape kind of
exactly.
thing. Yeah,
you're gonna end up with some people that find out some crazy shit, and then some people are just flinging their poo at the wall. Yeah. But then right down the hall, you've got like one of the most brilliant minds of all time, but they're mostly just into like Japanese anime most of the time, so you don't know. But then they get interested because of money or whatever into stock market, and then they start applying their mind to that, and it's like, oh my fucking God, like this guy's brilliant. Like this guy, like this post, it's absolutely brilliant. And he's just like, he says he's just a guy with some programming knowledge, but you can tell in the way that he writes and was like a dog on a bone with this thing and didn't let it fucking go. Like, oh, this is way beyond average intelligence. I mean, this is genius level material here. It's like, wow, what the fuck is going on? I'm so late. I gotta go.
Okay.
It's so bad, bro. I just want to keep going.
I know. No,
having the stuff on the screen is so useful and helpful. This is gonna be very, very useful going forward. Because it just makes it so it's like as soon as I stop thinking about something or I see something else, I'm like, oh yeah, that too. And it's like having these connections for me with having the visual reference here is just so excellent. My gosh. Oh, I gotta go, bro.
Yeah, no,
I'm sorry.
super fascinating.
Oh my God.
Okay, man.
It's insane.
No. All good. Talking to you, man.
Oh, it was so great. I'll post this later on. Hopefully there's no issues with the copyright stuff. But I think from my research, as long as it's not the full screen, it should be fine. Because there's all the reaction channels and stuff like that. As long as you have it small on the screen, then it should be fine. So we'll find out.
Okay.
All right, man. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Still gone. Great talking to you, man.
You too, Wolf. Talk to you later. Bye, man.